serves as the board's annual organizational meeting, and in accordance with Board Policy 9321, I serve as board chair for a very short period of time until the board elects a chair. At this time, I'd like everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To assist with the process of the election of a chair, I will appoint an acting secretary to assist with the process. I'd like to appoint Ann Ogden, acting secretary. We will now enter the election of a chair. Nominations do not need a second according to Robert Rules of Order, but it would not be out of order to second somebody. The floor is now open for nominations for chair of the Waterford Board of Education. Are there any nominations for the chair of the board?
I'd like to nominate Jody Nazarchik as chairman of the board.
Do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay, we have a nomination of Jody Nazarchik for chair. Are there any other nominations for chair of the board? Are there any other nominations for chair of the board?
Move the nominations be closed.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are now closed. Robert's Rules of Order and Board Policy says a person must be elected by a majority of those members present at the meeting. It will take 5 votes tonight for a person to be elected chair of the board. Individual votes by board members will be recorded in the minutes as required. As has been the case in the past, board members will vote by voice vote. I ask that when I call your name, that you either cast a vote or abstain. Greg Benoit?
Aye.
Ann?
Yes. Aye. Abstain. Aye.
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 Okay. 8 votes affirmatively, 1 abstention. That would make Jody Nazarchik chair of the Waterford Board of Education. Congratulations. That relieves me of my duty as chair, which I'm happy to give up. So I will.
You can say that.
Yeah, good. Show the secretary. You're fine.
I'd like to thank my fellow board members for electing me again as chairperson. And I really feel that, we had a lot of challenges last year, and this year I feel we're really off to a good start. We have some excellent new members, we have excellent returning members, and I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure you are too, doing the best for our students and teachers. So now, we're on to the election of a secretary. Is there any special verbiage that I should be using?
Basically, are there any nominations for the position?
Okay. Are there any nominations for Secretary of the Board of Ed? Kathleen?
I'd like to nominate Lisa Berry.
Lisa, do you accept?
I do.
That's great. Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, the nominations for Secretary are closed. All those in vote, you have to do it individually?
We do need to record individual votes.
Okay, Greg?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 8 votes and 1 abstention. Lisa Berry is our secretary again this year. Thank you, Lisa. Now we're down to introduction of visitors.
Sure. Welcome Pat Fedor, President of WASA, Martha Shoemaker, President of the Teachers Federation, I'd like to welcome Dr. Eileen Howley, Executive Director of LEARN, and Lieutenant Timothy Silva of the Waterford Police Department.
And also I'd like to recognize Dave Campo and Dave Kenny for returning. We're going to miss you too on the board. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming this evening. I know it's right before Christmas and a lot of you are really busy, so it's nice to see people in the audience. Thank you. Okay, now we're down to public comment. Just down at the bottom, I hope everybody read on our agenda that the Waterford Board of Education bylaw 9325 addresses public comment at the board meetings and designates that a 3-minute time limit will be allowed per speaker per public comment related to any item within the board's jurisdiction, and that a maximum of 20 minutes per meeting be allocated for any one item. So now, are there any comments, public comments from the audience? Here, could you please just state your name and address? I know you are, but just so everybody else does.
Good evening, members of the board. I'd like to comments entered into the record, please. My name is Jerry Baker, and I live at 262 Whippoorwill Road in Old Lyme. I'm a retired Waterford teacher, and I retired in 2013. First, I would like to congratulate both the members who were re-elected and the new members of the board. Next, I would like to recognize the other retired teachers and administrators who are here tonight, and also those who did not attend. We have come before this elected body a number of times this year to request your attention to our concerns about how our TRB subsidy has been and still is allocated to us. The new members of the board may want to review testimony and video of the meetings we have attended so far. All we asked for was to open a dialogue to address these concerns. We came to this board out of respect for your members and for your authority. What we have gotten in return so far is summarily dismissed. With all due respect, we know that Superintendent TR did not create this problem, but unfortunately he has inherited it. There is now an opportunity for this board to take a new direction and to address our concerns. We are committed to resolving this issue, and we are not going away. So I ask you again to consider opening a dialogue between this board and the retired teachers and administrators to address the TRB subsidy. Thank you, and have a peaceful and meaningful holiday season.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there any other public comment? Okay, now we're going to move along to recognition for our immediate past board members. Thank you. Sure. Dave Campo, come up, please. Just so I don't know if you know Dave's history on our board, but we'd like to recognize Dave for his years of service to the Waterford Board of Education. Dave served with dedication from November 2011 through November 2015. As a member of the board, Mr. Campbell served on numerous committees during his tenure with the board. He served successfully on the Finance Committee, Metro Pass Communications, IT Committee, as a liaison to the Waterford Education Foundation, and also as a member of the Friendship School Governing Board. We want to thank you for your commitment and dedication, and you will be missed. Good luck. Dave, I'll come over. Okay. We would like to honor you, Dave, for your years of service to the Waterford Board of Education from November 2011 to November 2015. Your commitment to the Waterford Public Schools and your role to the Board of Education was evident and is appreciated. You served with distinction as a member of the Policy Committee, the Residency and Transportation Committee, and the Sick Leave Bank Committee. We want to thank you for your dedication, commitment, and enthusiasm, and devotion to the staff, students, and parents of Waterford Public Schools. We're going to miss you. Kathleen, did you want to say something?
I just, because I served with them for so long, and would just like to recognize both of these Board of Ed members were excellent Board of Ed members and fulfilled their roles and responsibilities. They're going to be greatly missed. I don't think we're really saying goodbye. I think we'll be seeing you around, and just really wanted to express my own feelings for two great members. Thank you.
Would any other board member like to say anything? Dave?
Thank you, everybody. And, not only did I have a good time, I learned a lot about this town over the last 4 years. We have a hard-working group of Board of Ed members, administration, teachers, staff, that really, when the chips are really down and we got to get together, we come together all for the kids and we get things done. And I never once felt like we weren't always moving forward. Board of Education in this town really has a lot to be proud of. So thank you very much.
Okay, now we're down to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as it was presented? So moved. Marcia? Is there a second? Second. Amanda? Is there any discussion before we vote? Any corrections? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried to accept the consent agenda. Do you have any correspondence?
I have none.
I don't either. That's really a surprise. Okay, now we're down to superintendent's report.
Sure, just want to thank Quaker Hill for the wonderful artwork and graphic displays here in the room and out in the hall, so thank you to Quaker Hill. While we're on the subject of art, I want to recognize Waterford High School art teacher Laura Provo Parker. She had a personal piece of art selected to be displayed in the Connecticut Art Educators exhibit, which will be in New London at the Hygienic Art Galleries and will be displayed during the month of January. So quite an honor for one of our teachers' own personal art endeavors to be selected. So something we should be proud of for sure. You may have noticed pictures scrolling on the board when you walked in earlier tonight. Those were our Clark Lane Middle School students. They performed recently at a Providence Bruins game. I believe it's the second time this year they've done that, so that is a wonderful thing and great PR for the school district and something the kids really enjoy. Just two other updates. One on strategic planning. At the last board meeting, one of the board goals that was approved was to enter a strategic planning phase. Since the last meeting, we've begun contacting various entities who do this work, and we are scheduling some time with them in the month of January to hear their various thoughts about a process that would make sense for Waterford Public Schools. So we'll certainly keep the board updated on how those developments progress. I want to just give you a brief budget update before the holidays. Certainly we'll dive into this in great extent in January and more so in February, but we've held initial meetings with all department supervisors and principals, and we're refining our requests, and we'll dig into that much deeper after the holidays. You've heard me speak a couple of times now about a tuition increase that we're facing at the Friendship School. Waterford has about 200 pre-K students and about 40 kindergarten students that attend the Friendship School. And the tuition increase that we're facing is due to a variety of factors, and we thought it would be prudent to invite the Executive Director of Learn here tonight, Dr. Eileen Howley. First of all, to meet her, we obviously have some new board members, and even veteran board members may not have had the opportunity to be in her company yet, so we wanted to introduce her as a great collaborator to our district. But for her to also speak about the factors that are leading to this increase. So as we enter budget season, you have an understanding as to the reasons behind it. I wouldn't suggest we get into a lengthy discussion tonight about that increase until it's put in the context of the larger Board of Education budget, but certainly wanted to provide you with some information. So Dr. Howley's finishing her third year at Learn, and we welcome her, and I will hand the floor over to you, Eileen.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Eileen Howley from Learn. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Little technology challenge. Okay, thank you very much. So good evening. I have the distinct privilege of being the Executive Director of Learn, which makes me the superintendent, if you will, for the state purposes of the friendship. And so I've been in that position for the past 3 years. And I also have Doreen Marvin here with me, who's my Director of Development, and she was here when that school was developed, because there are a lot of folks who helped in the creation of that school, and none of those superintendents are here anymore. The staff from Learn that was designing that aren't here anymore, so there's a lot of change. So it makes sense to talk a little bit about the history of the school. And some of you, I'm appreciative to the board members who serve on the governing board of that school, so thank you. I appreciate that. So it's been a 10-year partnership between the New London Public Schools and the Washington Public Schools and Learn, obviously. And it was designed, and this is what's really critical about this school, it was designed as an inclusive early childhood model for 7th grade. So the inclusive part of special education has been an integral part of this school, as I'm sure many of you know. But as you know, in your own public schools, that those needs for children are only increasing. And the need for autism has been a challenge, and in this school it's no different. In fact, we're seeing high prevalence rates and high incidences of rather complex needs in the school that have really accelerated in the past few years. This is all part of the Friendship School story tonight. So the school, for those of you who aren't aware, the school is funded through a series of sources. The one main source, and the reason why it receives that source, is state magnet tuition. Because two school districts come together, it means that the state will, between an urban and suburban partnership, they will pay $7,900 per child because of that. So that's a really critical piece of the state's commitment to this integrated school. And in addition to that, obviously the two towns have then sent the tuition cost for the school. It's underwritten by some other things, like some small title money because of the fiscal needs of the family, as well as both New London and Waterford have contributed in-kind teachers and support to the school. So, for a long period of time, over that 10-year period, both school districts have contributed that secondary share. They've both given the money for that. At the end of the 2012-13 legislative session, I'm talking about on like June 26th, we had notification that the school was going to receive funding for the district share portion. So in other words, what the two towns were contributing, they were going to give us at that time a pretty significant dollar amount for those children. And it came at the very end of the fiscal year, which means you had contributed, we spent the budget. And then, as of July 1, they said, guess what, we're going to give that to you again. And it had to do with a case that was going on in the Hartford region. So they made two decisions then to give it both at the end of that fiscal year, which meant we really couldn't use it in that because the teachers were paid, the school year had ended virtually. And that was when we were notified. And as well as telling us we would get it in the following year. So the decision between those two superintendents at that time and the governing board at that time was to say, you know, let's take those additional monies, and we can't spend it all at once because that would significantly shift how you are funding the school. But they made a decision together with Learn to say to use those added pre-K monies to reduce that tuition cost to the sending town over 3 years. So they took that approximately $2 million and said over 3 years, let's stretch that money out so that we wouldn't feel such a hard hit, but we would save something. But you know when you do that to your budget, that's an artificial reduction to your line item. And so because it was a temporary reduction of that line item. So there were some monies there. The school had some needs at the time as well. And we met and worked with the governing board and said, you know, let's also provide some infrastructure upgrades. So we did some work on the telephone system, the technology, a little bit of money for TV. But what was really coming clear, and we reported to the governing board, is that not only were those needs there, but the autism needs and special needs in that school were also increasing. So there were a couple pressures happening on the school right at that time. We also made the decision at that time that that's how the money would be spent. So the special needs were accelerating, and it actually pushed the school into deficit for 2 years running. And we had brought those concerns to the governing board at that time, said, what are we going to do about that? So for 2 years running, it was in deficit. We did our best at Learn to try and reduce that deficit, do the best we could with it. And then we said, so we were hoping that the state would then send in the 14-15 year more of those dollars. And what we were told is we would get probably not 100%. We would get probably 80%. This was in the winter. And then by the time they actually told us what we would get, it was 60% of what we got the year before. And they based it on spring reduced lunch numbers from the sending town. So it was an unknown for us and for LEARN, and I'm sure as a town, you know the challenge of trying to budget when you don't know what you're receiving for revenue is very difficult. So we were very challenged by that. So the fiscal drivers that continue for the school is, of course, we had that resource for 3 years running, but the state share, the $7,900, has remained flat for the last 5 years. So that money hasn't moved. And I can tell you honestly, in my work at the legislature, as I go and talk with appropriations chairs, we do not anticipate any increases in that funding, in that flat funding whatsoever. That has remained flat for 5 years running now at LEARN, and for all of the magnets in Southeastern Connecticut, so we have had to really be fiscally prudent because that actually accounts for probably 2/3 of the share of the school is in that money. We also simultaneously have the challenge of the increased need for intensive services, for autism and behavioral needs and related services. And I know your special services staff know that very well. The challenge that we face even in this fiscal year, and tonight is December 17th, I do not know the dollar figure that we will receive from the state for that partial share. So what I do know, since I met with the chief financial officer from the State Department and the commissioner only 2 days ago, said, can you please tell me, because we're running the school right now, and we'd like to not have that school being deficit this year. What they did share, and they asked us to do this year, is they said, we don't want to use free and reduced lunch, because some things happen that change how they want to calculate that share. So you may, hopefully, I'm not even looking at my notes, so good. See, I'm thinking along where my mind was. So here we go. So the tuition was $7,900 per child. We anticipated at that time a contribution from the State Department, but we didn't know what it would look like. Simultaneously, the legislature required in the implementer bill, which is that late bill that they put right at the end of the session for how they were going to implement the budget, they required that RESC-operated, that means LEARN, preschool, shall charge tuition of up to $4,053 to the parent or guardian of an enrolled preschool student. And the legislation prohibits the RESC from charging tuition if, and this is an important line, a child's family income is at or below 75% of the state median income. That's a very different metric than free and reduced lunch. We collect free and reduced lunch information because we provide school lunch for children. We do not collect state median income. That's not the way that is used is actually in the school readiness formula for our for school readiness monies, which is really coming more out of the Office of Early Childhood. That's an early childhood metric, and we had no way as LEARN of knowing our families whether or not they meet that. So we actually surveyed families this past month to say, can you tell us if your income is at or below that, so we can report that. So we've reported that data to the state, but we do not know, and that's the big question, what their share will be this year. So in meeting with the CFO and with the commissioner, they indicated to me that we would receive dollars this year. Thank you, that's good, because we're educating kids right now. We will receive some dollars for that district share, if you will, and they're looking at the numbers that we sent to them. So again, it's an unknown, but again, there's hopefulness that we will receive some dollars this year. As I said, the tuition structure is driven by the Office of Early Childhood because that school readiness formula, I think, is coming more out of there than the State Department of Education. And also simultaneously, the legislature required that we become NIAC accredited as a RESC-operated preschool. So NIAC accreditation means that we actually have to keep our staffing levels at pretty high levels there in the ratio between teacher and student, which has some implications for the school. So I'm going to push the pause button for a minute. Do you mind, Grace? I just put this right here just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I'm going to see if you have any questions for me. We believe at this time that now is the time to say, so what are the challenges and opportunities for the board? Where do you want to go from here? We are faced with really, I see both towns faced with the challenge of, you have one hit, which was you artificially reduce your budget because you had that income coming in. and that allowed the school to make some adjustments and changes. You have that one step. Then you have the second step of the tuition is going down in terms of what the state will contribute on the other hand, and simultaneously the needs of the kids are going up in special needs. So to me that's kind of a trifecta of challenge for both towns. And I call it challenge and opportunity because it's an opportunity for both communities together with Learn to come together and say, what do we want as the next chapter of the school? As you face your budget challenges, what can we do for the next iteration of it? Could we make new decisions, different decisions, and how would we like to approach the school? So we've been in pretty deep conversations with the Waterford administration, with the New London administration, and trying to work through those issues. So we want to be as clear as we can about the challenges that that faces, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have Dorian here to support them. We want to do any history that was before my tenure here.
Do any of the board members have any questions? Kathleen?
Hello, Eileen. Hi, Jeff. Nice to see Eileen. And I'm very aware of this situation, and as we have spoken, can you just tell me, on that year for the NIAC accreditation, is that a reasonable time? Because I remember we talked about going to NIAC accreditation in the past, and I remember it being fairly complicated and time-consuming as well.
Absolutely. It is time-consuming. I do worry about that because if to be accredited 16, 17 means they need to be fully in the process in 15 and 16, which is right now. Like right now, basically. And in order to educate the staff adequately, and I turn to Dorian, would you agree with me that it's like now? You need to do it right now. So that is a challenge for...
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak at all, but that may be something that we can look at perhaps going out a little bit longer for that particular reason, because it's very short notice to get that all going that quickly. So I would like to state that. The other, do you remember what the cap was prior to 5 years ago? I know it's 7,900 now. Do you remember what percentage it was? Was it 5 years back?
28, 20.
So there's been very little increase even prior to the 5 years back.
Even prior to the 5 years, the two towns have really carried the share of the school and made a commitment to that share and really carried that. And it was only in the last few years with some additional pieces that it's gotten more complicated, both their contribution and their co-investment.
And would it be possible for you to give us some indication of the amount of children that are being serviced now, the more specialties with the autism piece?
Sure. We have the total population of the school around 520. It takes in both your regular pre-K through 4 and 5-year-olds. We also have in that mix some birth to 3 children who come in through that avenue. In the deep autism program, that runs between 14 and 16. We've had to add this sort of specialized classrooms, as it were, to really meet those needs. So we try as best we can to do fully integrated special education to the degree that we can. But there are times when children need more. So the pull-out program, if you will, is about 14 to 16 students, and the remainder of all those children are in integrated special ed regular ed classes.
Anybody else?
This accreditation, is there any additional cost for that? Aside from the teacher's time that it takes to go through that process?
Yes, there are costs associated with that. They have a better handle on the numbers, but I know that you have to plan for that and prepare for that both in terms of staff time and the cost of the accreditation.
And aside from education for the staff, what else is required to get that certification?
Some of it's a pretty rigorous professional development plan, most of which would have to be already implemented in place. To go back to Ms. McCarty's question, because of the expense and the fact that staff were not trained to meet their NIAC-specific requirements, the school did get NIAC accredited and met all of those requirements. And since then, Learn and the governing committee had asked that any of the paraprofessionals meet take the Para-Pro test. That may or may not be exceptional to NIAC. We don't know yet. If it is, the cost then becomes a little bit less.
If it isn't, we either will have a large staff turnover, which comes with its own expenses, or we will have to set aside dollars in order to have those staff all meet the 12 credits of early childhood that are required.
Anybody else? Amanda?
I had two. I just wondered about, I know some of the New London public schools are already absorbing, they have autistic, self-contained, they have physical and mental handicap challenged children from the preschool age up to grade 5. And what has, I know the Harbor School, they're planning on expanding that greatly in the future, and I just wondered how much that would affect this partnership that we currently have.
We've been in, thank you for the question, we've been in deep conversation with New London. In fact, the New London superintendent just presented at the Learn Governing Board last week and shared that one of his visions is universal preschool, that he wants that. What we do know about the seats for autism is that he actually has many of those seats as friendship. Doesn't appear at this time that he has any intention of removing those children and moving them anywhere. I think there are enough needs, actually, that they need to have it in more than one place. In the case of Waterford, this is probably your sense on this is your first of three place for your kids and your place for autism for young children. In New London, they probably need more than one alternative. We don't have enough seats in the school to actually accommodate if we were to punish all of it. We could not do that unless we added another class.
Anybody else? I mean, how many, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
When you say the difference in state magnet reimbursement in Hartford County and London County, because that might be an interesting difference.
The state contribution here, as I said, is $7,900, and the Chef region, the contribution, I believe, is $10,043.
And for our Hartford Public School is $13,000.
Talk about the inequity. That's ridiculous.
So I feel like we are, Learn has, I don't know if it's a dubious distinction, but we have actually the least expensive magnet schools in the state of Connecticut in the Learn region, because I think we're doing things very efficiently. We're trying to do things in all ways that we can to serve children in the best way possible. I think we're in all sincerity, we're at a tipping point in terms of agency, because I still have increasing salaries and increasing cost of living and increasing utilities and all those things that you do in your public schools. We're trying our best, but we don't want to do a disservice to children by cutting so low that then we can't provide these services that they need. And we're committed to providing high quality service in the programs that we provide. And that's why we bring the challenge to UCA to say, it's a challenge and an opportunity to say, what can we do? Are there some alternatives? Do we have to open doors in different ways, invite other communities in? Can we find some other means? Or do the two towns want to continue that contribution? I have spoken to the state head of the magnet school. He has assured me it's not like the state is going to come after Waterford and London, so we must charge families. That wasn't their intent. I think the intent was focused on a different problem they were trying to solve. They also don't have the budget to pay for every pre-K family in the state. That's not something the state has the capacity to do, or so I've been told. And so I think we're just in that, and you have such a partnership and a history of making that contribution together. And it would, I think, because it's only two towns, it makes it more complex, because the light is shown on both towns in both ways.
I mean, what I don't understand is, Joni was saying how it was $7,800 some odd dollars before that. Every year, I know with us, when we set our tuition for out-of-town children, it goes up every year. And it hasn't gone up for you at all. So that's not right either. Because everything, even the cost of living goes up every year.
Well, the state contribution on the Chef Magnet, it has gone up, but not every year. They've actually had flat funding in that for a series of years. Where they have raised is the district share of the contribution of the tuition. So for example, in other Learn Magnets, we receive the state $7,900, and then we charge, like at the Regional Multicultural Magnet School, we charge a tuition to the district to send their children. We try and keep that low. The Learn Governing Board votes that increase. We try to keep that as low as possible. That's the one piece that they can increase. We have to keep in mind that the Chef region, however, is under court order. We are not under court order. And the court order actually drives some of those decisions.
A child is a child, though. That doesn't, anyway. How many more autistic children do you have enrolled at the Friendship School now than you did 10 years ago? Do you know offhand? There are more, though, correct?
I think it's probably around 13 to 15% more.
Okay.
Recollection is
And I think the other piece to that is that the children are presenting more extreme,
Mm-hmm.
further along on the spectrum. I think so I'm not a good portrait, the right lingo, but further along on the spectrum. And it's hard, younger and younger, the children are coming in with more trauma, more challenges, and how do we support them back?
Right. Amanda, did you have another
do you think, because the diagnosis, if you will, of autism has changed now that we can't, it's either it's autism, they're not using the Asperger term, they're not using any of that, will that affect any of the numbers? I know the children previously diagnosed were grandfathered in, so to speak, but
That's a nuance. I don't think I could.
I just wonder because
It's a good question.
I'm a special education teacher, so
I understand.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around it, but I wondered if that's going to be.
And I would say, learn is at the ready to be of service to both towns, to do our best to come together with the administration to find some solutions to how to manage the challenges that we have in front of us, and we stand ready to do that. I'm appreciative of the conversation that we've had with the new superintendent and the whole administrative team, and just look forward to trying to do what we can. To Tom's point, we will have more information. The CFO at the State Department of Education has assured me that we'll know in January what the state contribution is, at least this year, so I'll know how deep in debt I am this year or not.
But that's such a big challenge, though, not knowing, trying to put together a budget, not knowing how much money you're going to have.
Yes, it is. And yeah.
Did you want to say something, Kathleen?
I just, is this complete? I mean, is there anything else that we don't have in the report as far as, I know you've been modest over the years and very fiscally prudent going forward, and I just sometimes worry that having served on the governance board for so many years that I was there when we did the budget through it, and as the building ages and there's more needs there that we don't want to overlook either, that going forward you may have to present the case for more the technology needs or the upgrade in the infrastructure.
I think the way I would characterize it is, so we have this challenge of where you reduce your budget and how that's gone. So we kind of know that. We have sort of up the level playing field. Then you have the next tier, which is, okay, so if the state support has come down, then both districts have to contribute more. Then you have increased needs of the children, which has put I really would have to say it is the special needs cost that has hit the scales of the school higher, and that's I don't anticipate those needs going down. So if you factor that, but then you add in one more piece, which is there is a facility that we're trying to take care of. And in our other magnet schools, we try and budget within our tuition because Learn can't charge for other things, that we budget to take care of the facilities. And so the facilities maintenance here is a question of how can we do that? I don't have a reserve anymore to say I can reserve and take care of this facility for you because we've been prudent and set some dollars aside. So that's a challenge that we could potentially face when it comes time for the building to need something substantive. We have pretty significant maintenance and custodial services in the budget to cover the daily pieces, but any major capital we would need to be talking about how to do that. It's not impossible, but it would need some dialogue around that budget process.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to come in and share about the school. And we care about the school. If you ever want to list, there's 500 is the most beautiful little urchins who go around, and the principal would have been here tonight, but unfortunately she has a sick child.
Oh, I understand.
And children come first.
Thanks for coming. I mean, I just want to make a comment. I have a granddaughter at the Friendship School, and she's having a phenomenal year. And I think you're doing an excellent job there. You really are. So I would hate to see anything happen to it.
Appreciative of you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Kathleen, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I think everyone in the waterfront community is aware, but we should point out that the Friendship School is unique in the state of Connecticut. And I think it's a point that we need to continuously state that we're the only urban magnet school in the entire state of Connecticut. So
that's right.
I think it's important to point that out.
And the two towns' commitment for such a long period of time is just completely unique and something that is worth examining. Thank you for raising it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just a quick comment is that, Eileen, thank you again, and, I thought it was important for the board and the public to hear the challenges we'll face. We'll get into much more detail in budget season, but that this challenge or problem or issue was not created by Learn, and I think that was important for people to hear that they're a partner in addressing this challenge. I just want to make sure that people understand that. Last item that I have is just to wish everybody here tonight, but our staff, our community, and our students and families a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, committee and other reports. Does anybody have a committee report? Nothing. Do you have anything from the state? I have a couple reports, but do you have anything from the state to report?
We just did the test presentation, and I was beginning from one state. They're pretty much at this level of what's going on, not on the education piece right now. We did do the CAVE award. The board received the leadership award from CAVE, so that was nice. And superintendent was there, and assistant superintendent, so that was great. Thank you.
Okay. I just have a really short report. The Youth Service Bureaus are really busy with all of their Christmas families that parents have that people in Waterford have adopted. And I have to say I'm really, really impressed with all of our residents, our teachers, the police department, the fire departments. I mean, what they have done, they're really going to make so many Christmases so happy for so many children that their parents just can't do it. So, and this year, as I mentioned in our last meeting, we also adopted some senior citizens. So we're going to make their holiday a little happier this year, too, which will be great. I do have tickets and raffle tickets for the Bash at the Beach. All of the money that they raised this year, they're going to donate towards, they're going to give it to the Cactus Jack Foundation, and it's going to go for childhood cancer patients to help their families. For instance, if they have to travel, to give them gas money and food money and things like that, and it's in honor of Madeline Guerra. She's the driving force behind this, so if anybody would like to attend Bash at the Beach, or if you want to buy a raffle ticket, I have them right here. I just wanted to make two comments. It's a privilege for me to be able to visit Oswegatchie School, and I visited Terry Hallahan's readers workshop, and because we adopted the new program, I just wanted to see how it was working. And I was so impressed with her class. And also, Chris came in, and he was working with one little boy was having a tough time, so Chris got right down on the floor, and he was helping him out, to try to solve his problems. So I was very impressed with the program. And also, I was able to visit Clark Lane and Mark's history class, and Jim Sachs let me do that, and it was wonderful. Our history program is great, and Mark has those children so engaged, and I learned a lot. It was amazing what they came up with. For instance, Mark asked them what should be on the job description for a senator and representative in Washington. And it was amazing what they came up with, and they should listen to the kids, never mind the grown-ups. So I was very impressed with his class, too. Mark Higgins does a fantastic job. And Chris and Jim, thank you for letting me attend. Do you want Jay to give a little update about it? Oh, Kevin, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask one thing. Can Jay give an update on the high school? Sure. Because we didn't have a building committee meeting.
The roof work has been done. The decanopy roof work has been done. We're pretty close to finishing up the project. Right now, all the repair work has been completed.
All right, well, thank you. You've done a phenomenal job with your crew. Thank you. Yep. Kevin, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Just some information about the annual CAVE Leadership Institute, and this is offered for all board members to help them develop the skills and knowledge they would need to be effective advocates for equity and excellence in student achievement. These do run in the evening in March.
Okay.
March 10th, March 24th, there'll be a session on the web, and then March 31st. Registration is January 8th if anyone is interested, I'll just give this to Joyce, so if you're interested, you can just give Joyce a call and she can register you. Okay?
Is it all, it's all on the web?
No, there are classes up in Weathersfield. 3 classes up in Weathersfield, 1 on the web. Probably work something out on that. If you can't make the classes, I'm sure you can probably get the information.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. This is great. Thank you.
That, and then the CAVE convention was a sellout this year. And that next year they will have it, I believe they signed a contract to have it there again next year, but it is kind of outgrowing the Mystic Marriott, and they are thinking of moving it, so I don't know where to.
Years ago, I used to have an exam.
They've been thinking about that, and someone had said the convention center in Hartford, but that's almost too big, and it would make the convention look poor in size too. So.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, I did forget one thing. It was a pleasure to receive Mr. Arnold's civics class up at the Capitol the other day, and I wanted to share that the students, it was remarked by everyone how well behaved they were, and they listened and they asked some tough questions. So just would like to share that they're really learning their civics. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, and then the board members, did all of you call Joyce and let her know what committees you'd like to serve on? If you haven't done that yet, please just give her a call. We'll get everything all straightened out. We'll send out copies of the committees and who's on what to you, okay? Thank you. Okay, under new business, discussion and possible action regarding memorandum of understanding for school resource officer. That was enclosed in our packet.
Sure. Give you a little background on that. There was a public act passed last year, Public Act 15-168, which requires any district who utilizes an SRO to engage in an MOU with their local police department. For some communities, this may have been a challenge. Fortunately, here in Waterford, it was really an opportunity for us to memorialize the great collaboration that we already have. The MOU, the idea behind the MOU by the state was that it would really help to define the roles and responsibilities of SROs in the school system. That can vary greatly from district to district. There's a long history of a successful model here in Waterford, and the MOU that administration and Chief Mahoney worked on was really an easy and effortless process to really just put down on paper what we're already doing. We do have Lieutenant Timothy Silva here tonight. Lieutenant Silva, I don't know if you have any words on behalf of the Chief and the Police Department.
For us as the Police Department, the safety of the children in schools is always a big deal for all of us. We've always had strong support from the Superintendent, Board of Ed, and all the schools. You guys have done a great job about it. So we just looking forward to continuing that relationship. It's been great, and it's a very easy process too, so that's great.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions about the agreement? Marcia?
I have a question. I noticed after going through it that I believe there are 4 full days that they're scheduled. The hours that they're scheduled is 4 full days. So does that always stay like the same days, or do they are they flexible? I mean, if someone wanted to cause a problem and they know that every Monday they're not there, that was my concern.
Craig, I don't know if you have any, or Lieutenant, on their schedules.
It's generally a set schedule. They have certain days off that they fall through on there, so I think that's why that falls in, plus different trainings that they go to. But we always have, like one of the things we instituted probably 3 years ago was patrol officers too. They make a walk through every school that's out there, so whenever there's a problem, we're always stepping in, even if they're not there. We always have somebody up patrol that can step right in.
But the day that they're not covered is a consistent day, and it's not flexible.
It is flexible. It is, and I think where the fall through on that is when we have 2 youth officers in school, and one of them has like one Friday off, another one has a Monday off, so they float through there. I'm sure that there's some flexibility for that as well.
At the high school, we also have 2 security guards that are there for every 2 weeks. And as Lieutenant said, we will always have an FLO available in the district. And certainly if we needed more support, we would have it.
Right. No, I understand that. It's just to have someone, if we're covering the schools for a reason, and we're always leaving one day out, and it's consistently the same day, I have a problem with that. If it, fluctuates and messes up the schedule of anybody that wants to cause a problem, I think it's very easy to figure out what day it's not covered and have some problems. My other issue is probably an issue that can't be resolved here, but I have an issue with anyone with a gun in the school, and that's just my own personal feeling. I would like to know, how secure is your gun?
Always honest, and
do you secure?
I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry?
When you put a police officer in school, you're never going to get that aspect. It's always going to be there. But they're in holsters. There's triple retention on them. They're not suffering down. They never come out unless something bad's happening. They are very secure, and they meet. Like, we have policies on what they have to do. The state has a model policy through our post standard of what you shouldn't have for a holster. So the stuff that you're getting with people in the schools are only the uniformed officers for the most part. So it's just like you're seeing me now. About as secure as you're going to get, absent removing a cop from the school.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Amanda? It's in the back, the last page, it talks about providing Waterford Public School employees with training relative to this agreement. So are we talking, who are we training?
We're really talking about school security plans, things like that, making sure every school district in the state is required to have a school security plan. We constantly work with the police department to evaluate those plans, make sure those plans are up to date and safe, mainly working with administration both at the district level and the school level.
And each secondary school has all of the surveillance, and so how to really use that technology to have to go back and look at that.
One thing that's not through the lockdown, really, we do planning those and getting those and what we're supposed to do, who's rules and stuff, that stuff.
Any other questions? Does this also cover basketball and football games? Does that come out of the athletic budget?
I believe there's a clause mentioned.
It said dances and
it didn't really detail what
that would be the games.
Or other basketball and other things.
Okay.
Which, the off hours, the police do.
So like an after hour?
Yeah,
okay.
after hours. Anybody for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approves the agreement between the Waterford Police Department and the Waterford Public Schools for the School Resource Officer Program, and authorizes Mr. Giard, Superintendent, to sign the agreement for the Waterford Public Schools.
Second.
Thank you, and seconded by Kevin. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? And motion carried. Okay, now we need a motion to go into executive session and invite Mr. Giard and Dr. Spera, Marine Science Magnet High School Principal, for the purpose of discussion of a confidential student matter. Ann, is there a second? Kathleen? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Of course. Do we have any water? We used to have pictures. I know, we did. That's why I didn't bring one.
Let me get her back, okay? I'll be right back.
Yeah. How long is going on?
So, proud of her.